So we're gonna put all the town hall updates, the new dates, discussions, anything that's going on with the town halls are gonna be put into that community under WhatsApp, under Samaritan Resource Center. So if you wanna keep up with all the news, whatever, anything that's going on in East Orlando as far as homelessness, keep your eye on that. I'm going to now ask, and plus one more thing I want to mention, please think about who else should be in this room with us, right? We want to get all the community leaders, the businesses in the community, the residents. The more people are here, the more ideas we can come up with, the more solutions, the better solutions we can come up with. So think about, if you think somebody else who should be in this room, please feel free to invite them. It's an open meeting. There is no invite list or exclusive list to be here. So please let us know. We're going to go into updates. Eric Gray from the Christian Service Center is going to come up here and talk about the latest homeless numbers. And any other data he might want to share. And then Lisa Graham from Orange County is here from the Homeless and Mental Health Division, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about the new ordinance before we go into open discussion. Thank you. What?
Sure you want me to go?
I don't know. How long are you being?
It's strange being asked to speak about homelessness when you have folks like Martha R., who is the area's expert on homelessness, sitting in the room. But she's not feeling well today, and so I didn't want to put her on the spot. And you got Tim McKinney, who runs one of the larger programs, and you got Mimi Conan, who's the operations director for our largest shelter, and Lisa Graham and Heather Thomas, who run all the homeless initiatives for Orange County. And I'm missing people that I'm sure talk more about this. So. Please know that it's a little unnerving when I'm speaking in front of people who are smarter than me about facts that I've been asked to share about. There's a little known, this is not scientific in any way, but it usually works out to be true. When you see numbers reported for anything going on in the United States, whether it's traffic fatalities or the number of people who like lollipops, it doesn't matter what it is, many times it works out that say that number was 1 million people, about 10% of them are in Florida. And of that number, about 10% of them are in the Orlando metro area. It's eerie how often that's the case. So if you said there was 1 million people who like lollipops, 10,000 of them live in the Orlando area. Remember I said that when I tell you the next statistic. So the example I've been using to try to give context to the size and scope of the issue of unsheltered homelessness, is using the example of foreign refugees. So if you bear with me. Since World War II, the United States has been bringing in foreign refugees from war-torn and famine-stricken countries all over the planet, places like, more recently, Syria, Sudan, and others. We are the best at this in the United States. There are actually 9 nonprofits that run it. They've been doing so for now over 70 years. And for years, we used to bring in about 200,000 foreign refugees a year, and every state took their allocation. Rhode Island took 1%, California took 10%, and so on. Lately, in the last decade or so, that number's been around 60,000. 60,000 foreign refugees a year. So keep that in mind when I tell you that as of just in the last week of December, the federal agency that is most closely aligned with homelessness is called Housing and Urban Development. HUD shared that based on all the data they collected in 2024, it looks as if on a single night in the United States, about 750,000 adults and children will be experiencing homelessness tonight. So think about it in 2 contexts. This is no longer your grandparents' homelessness problem. Okay, this is a domestic refugee crisis, the size and scale of which this country has never seen. And we're seeing it across the country. So it's not just in warmer weather climates. Boston has a higher per capita rate of homelessness than Orlando does. Minneapolis higher than Houston. Anchorage, Alaska higher than San Diego. It's not about weather. It's not about mental illness. It's not about addiction. It's all about housing. Now, I'm not going to go too much into that, but just it's always important anytime I have an opportunity to speak about it, because the number one barrier that we face to helping solve homelessness is just the mythology around homelessness. And so the example that I want to share with you, just to put that all into context, is the comparison to a hospital. So when we think, if you ever do take the time and you think about homelessness, and most of us, wouldn't, I do because it's my job, but most everybody wouldn't spend a lot of mental energy thinking about it. You might think, okay, the people that I see who are experiencing homelessness today are the same people that are doing so a year from now. Except we kind of all know that that's not really true. It changes. So the best comparison I've found is to think about a hospital. We all have access to, Advent Health East. We all go there if we wanted to. Most of us will never step foot in that hospital this year. Some of us will step foot in the emergency room, and we'll be there for an hour or two, and that's it. Some of us will end up spending the night there. Some of us will be admitted for a couple of days, a week, a month. Some might go into long-term acute care for the rest of their lives. But on a single point in time, like the 750,000 number that I just shared with you, single night count, at a given hospital, you might have 1,000 people at the hospital that day. But throughout the year, there are likely to be 20, 30, 50 times that number that will go through that process. That's homelessness in the United States right now. Everybody's experiencing it differently, some for a day, some for a week, some for a month, some for a year, some for generations. It's crazy, and there is no one common thread that you could tie between all those people. The last two things I'm going to share with you, I think others will probably mention. There is an opportunity for volunteerism if you are so inclined. We desperately need the volunteers. Annually, we do something that every other community in the United States does. It's called a point-in-time count. The point-in-time count collection of data is where we came up with the 750,000 number that I shared with you. That's happening in this community. Martha, correct me, January 28th is the primary day, Tuesday the 28th. And we're also doing some work on the 29th and 30th. When I say count, I mean literally like the census. We take volunteers, we mobilize them with a phone app, and they go out in the community to places where we think they can talk to people. Some of them are obvious, like shelters. Some of them are not so obvious, like parking lots or drugstores or anywhere you can think of. We go all over 3-county area, and we spend 3 days talking to anybody and everybody we can. That information is captured, and it helps us with all of our work throughout the year in determining, how do we spend our resources. It's not an accurate count because we're not always going to be able to find everybody. And this was another point I wanted to share with you. For many years, most homeless adults and children could be found in shelter. If you were looking to count people, that was where you went. If you were just curious about where they were, it was in shelter. In September of last year, the National Alliance to End Homelessness put out a report after a lengthy study they did that showed the most common place for people experiencing homelessness in the US today is in their cars. And it's estimated it's about half. In the point-in-time count, we have traditionally not counted people in cars, not because we have any problem doing that, but how do you find them? I don't go knocking on windows at Walmarts and asking, are you homeless? Are you homeless? We don't do that. But this year, we're trying something new where we're going to go to 24-hour, places like Walmarts and Cracker Barrels and 24-hour fitnesses, and we're going to, paper some cars and encourage people that if they are in fact experiencing homelessness, they can actually self-report and be part of that study. Some of them will, most of them won't, but any information we can gather is always better than that. Last thing I'll share with you is just to be a little bit more on a hopeful note. There is a fantastic process that has developed in the United States, particularly in the last 12 years or so, for helping people exit homelessness and doing so permanently. It can be roughly just put into 2 buckets. One would be considered permanent supportive housing. The other bucket would be called diversion. And permanent supportive housing is a very expensive process, but it's for people who, as Zainab said, are chronically homeless. They've been homeless for a year or more and have some type of chronic medical condition. It could be a mental health condition. It's more likely it's a physical condition, sometimes both. We in this community, correct me, have about 1,600 or so, is that about right? 1,600 or so adults in permanent supportive housing. These are people that are generally, over 75, not all of them. These are people that will never work again in their lives. I'm not talking about the disability level that might get you a handicap decal. I'm talking about the disability level that if you don't get some help, you're going to die in a gutter. So we found that it's not only the compassionate thing to do to help people, put them in an apartment for the rest of their lives, and there's not one big place, we put them in apartments all over the place. And rest of their lives, on average, means roughly about 12 years. So it's not something we're doing for 90 years for somebody. Unfortunately, these people are in very bad health conditions. But it's cheaper than actually having them visit the emergency rooms for health care issues or going to the 33rd Street Jail. So permanent supportive housing is a big project. It's very expensive. It's paid for primarily by the federal government, but we also have local dollars that go into those, and it's very important. And we need more of them, because even with the 1,600 people that are in permanent supportive housing right now, I don't know what the wait list is or what the actual number, but I would easily say there's at least another 1,000 people in the community who we could put in permanent supportive housing if we had the funding. The other half of this is called diversion. And diversion is a weird word, and I'm not sure I have ever used it in any type of conversation before I started working in this field. But diversion just means we're using that person's resources to divert them into a safer place. The easiest form of diversion is if somebody comes to us at my place of business and they say, I'm sleeping on the streets, I can't do this. We're going to talk to them about, where do you have family anywhere in the United States? And are they willing to put you up for at least 9 months? And if they are, can they show us where you're going to live on FaceTime? So we do a site visit. And if they do, I'll put them on a plane, a train, or a bus that same day. And we do this for hundreds of people. I don't send folks to Pittsburgh just because they say, I want to go to Pittsburgh. But if that's the safest route for them, we do that. That's the easiest, cheapest way that we help people get into safe housing. On the other end of the spectrum with diversion, if people have a job and we feel like they can sustain it and they haven't received assistance before, I might pay for their first month's rent and security deposit to get them into an apartment. The last thing I did before coming here was signing a $3,033 check to put a mother of two children in an apartment that we'll get her in probably by Monday. So that reason I wanted to share that with you is that there's a lot of hope out there, because we're getting better and better and better at this. The downside is that there are more people entering homelessness than we're able to get out of. And so we're pushing back on the ocean a little bit, but we do get better at it, and we need policies to change in order for us to have a better shot at this. And the state of Florida is not doing us any favors. One of my clients is the first one that we're aware of. This is an elderly woman who's sleeping last night under the I-4 overpass at Amelia. She was tried to get into shelter, but she's not able to make it into the top bunk of a bed, and our shelters don't have the capacity to deal with people with serious medical conditions. So we weren't able to get her into shelter right away. She ended up on the street and living on the sidewalk for a few days. She's been visiting with us. We're working actively with her to try to get her someplace safe. And she never had a criminal record ever in her life until yesterday when she was arrested for camping. So now the law is the law, right? And if people are breaking the law, they should be punished for that. But in this case, the criminalization of something that is a basic human right, like sleeping or peeing, these are things that we really need to think about as a society, and these are the challenges we're up against. The number one thing that people are arrested for in this community right now, and I'm speaking about the city of Orlando, that's the only data I've seen, isn't actually camping. The number one thing that homeless adults are being arrested for is public urination. And it's not because they're wanting to expose themselves or they're lazy, there's nowhere for them to go to the bathroom. And so one of the simple things we can do to help is just find ways to build more public restrooms. And the simple things like that make a big difference when you know the data, when you look at the science, when you work with other partners. We have 55 different agencies we work with. We have hundreds of churches that we work with, and thousands of really fantastic volunteers that make all of this work. And we're proud to do it. We're happy to do it. But I just wanted to give you sort of a state of the system at the moment I want to do that in like 10 minutes or less. Hopefully I did. And I'm going to turn it back over to Zaina, wherever she is. And
Lisa.
all right, Lisa.
Talk about the questions.
Good evening, everybody. It's really good to be here, and I wanted to commend Z and her organization for doing these community meetings. I really, truly believe, and I've been a social worker for a long time, that without the community, you cannot make any changes. So I also commend you, all of you, for being here and for being open-minded enough to talk about this issue and to hopefully come up with solutions together. So my name is Lisa Graham. I have worked for Orange County for 25 years. Most of my time I spent in jail, but about a year and a half ago, I came to the Mental Health and Homelessness Division, where I have been since. And our division is kind of a two-part division. We have a plethora of homeless programs and mental health programs. The division, and I want to give you a little bit of overview because people always ask a lot of questions and they misunderstand a lot what we do in Orange County. And so my division specifically doesn't provide direct services and programs, but we fund around, I think, over 50 community agencies that provide services for the homeless and for the mentally ill. So when it comes to the public camping ordinance, I really need to give you a little tiny bit of a timeline because nobody really truly understands what's going on. Because the law is so broad that they, put out in Tallahassee, that it's really difficult to understand what we're supposed to do. What are the residents supposed to do? What is the police supposed to do? What is the government supposed to do? So I'm going to give you a little bit of a timeline, and I'm sorry, I am not as smart as Eric. I have to read just a tiny little bit. But in March of 2024, the governor approved House Bill 1365. And so effective October of last year, this bill came into effect, and it prohibits the county from authorizing or otherwise allowing any person to regularly engage in public camping or sleeping. Very important about this law is it's regularly in camp or sleeping. This law actually encompasses overnight. So if somebody is at public property during the day, they actually can be there, okay? Now, if it's public property, and that is also something that people many times misunderstand, like say you're a store owner and an unhoused person is at your store. That is private property. It is up to the store owner, it is up to the landlord, it is up to the property owner to do whatever they choose to do, okay? In form of either trespass or whatever else. Totally different from public property. This law is truly geared toward public property and jurisdictions and the government doing something about it, okay? So beginning January 1st of this year, so just a few days ago, it authorized residents, business owners, and the Attorney General to bring civil actions against the county to enjoin violations. So if a resident or business owner prevails, then the court can award reasonable expenses, including court costs and attorney's fees. So this is not a Dan Newlin billboard where you can get monetary gains from it, okay? The law gives the authority and the permission, so to say, for citizens, should the government, meaning the local jurisdictions, city or county jurisdictions, should we not be able to cure a situation, meaning remove an unhoused individual from the public property within 5 business days, a citizen, a resident, or the Attorney General could theoretically sue Orange County. I personally would hope that that doesn't happen. I can assure you, because I am in the midst of the process now and have been for quite some time, that Orange County is doing whatever they can together with the Sheriff's Office and the other police municipalities in order to help the situation. But as Eric said, with the poor lady, you know, that he just mentioned, if you have somebody that is homeless and the homeless shelters are full, right? And there is no other programs for her or him to go, where are they supposed to go, right? Now, Orange County is doing also, I don't know if anybody saw the presentation, you know, that we did on November 19th in front of the Board of County Commissioners, but the mayor and the Board of County Commissioners, they were very generous and they recognized the necessity, you know, and the need.
Hello, I'm Diana Jeremiah. I am the Director of Operations at Samaritan Resource Center, and tonight I'm talking on behalf of Deputy Allen. He is the community officer that's been assigned to come to these meetings. Unfortunately, he's ill, and so I wanted to talk about the camps in the East Orlando area. Folks have come to these town hall meetings, talked about camps. We have, as was said, a street outreach team that are out. That's what they do. They're in camps. They're talking to those people that are on the streets, at Walmart, whatever, and offering Samaritan resources and letting them know that we're there and how we can help them. And we work I understand why no one wants this in their backyard, but they're just going to move to the next place because there is no shelters. So we're moving them, but we haven't come up with a solution. So afterwards, I'm here to take notes on behalf of the police officer, bring back any concerns that you have so that when he comes back next month, he can tell you what he's done or what we have done in collaboration to try to help those that are experiencing homelessness in the camps. Thank you.
It's encouraging to know that there's so much work being done on this issue in our neighborhoods, right? Like this is something that is really, really important work. Now, one of the pieces of this evening that we're going to visit here for a few minutes is just to have a little bit of time where you all can speak, that there are public comments that can be made, and experiences, all of those kinds of things. So with that, I'm going to invite us into that space. And I promise you, if you ask a question that I don't know the answer to, which will probably be most of them, there is somebody in this room that knows. So we will, we can get to and address some of those concerns and things like that as a group this evening. So that's the goal in this. And what I tell my volunteers around the church is that hey, when we do this, we're gonna have the sense of a Chick-fil-A worker. All right. So embody that idea. If you've been to Chick-fil-A, everybody's got a smile. They're always ready to help, right? Like if we can treat each other like Chick-fil-A workers, we can have a wonderful, wonderful time through this next part. So with that, I want to invite you. Is there anybody that wants to make a comment this year? Yeah, come on. And just stand up right where you're at and speak loud enough for all to hear, please. Yeah.
There you go. So, hi guys, my name is Ethan. I am Political Affairs Chair for the Young Democrat of Orange County. And I think it's safe to say that we all know one of the root causes for why there's such a massive homeless epidemic, not only in the state, but in the country as a whole. And that's housing affordability. Right? You're hearing that?
Yeah, affordability.
Yep. So, across the country, there have been many efforts at trying to stem the short-term effects of homelessness, as we've seen in Florida as well, and what's going to happen in LA. We're trying to shove homeless people out of the picture so we don't have to see them. Literally sweeping them under the rug and pretending they don't exist. What kind of sense does that make if you really want to care for your people? Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Pastor, but didn't Isaiah say that you need to give food to individuals, shelter to those that they need? What are we doing in order to do that? From the state, nothing's happening. But you can look to other jurisdictions as well. I've done my research on this as not only an aide to one of the former commissioners, but also as a student. There are solutions that we can use in the state right now. Such as, for example, I'm not sure if anybody's heard about inclusionary zoning, but that has been a successful way to bring housing to the community as a whole. All it is governments and private businesses working together in order to set aside housing units for people. That doesn't sound too hard now, does it? Does it? There you go. So yes, it's incumbent not only on the state but also our local officials as well to get that process rolling. There has to be a strategic plan in place. And I'm willing to work with the commissioners as in the capacity that I serve. And I hope that the rest of you also look into this process as well. Because it does have benefits and it does have results. Not only in other states like Maryland, but also in St. Petersburg, an hour south from here. So rather than just trying to demonize people for the circumstances that they have found themselves in, let's actually do something about it. Right? Father.
Yeah. Thank you for your thoughts, and you're inviting me to preach now, so I'll keep this short, real short. But yeah, the people of God often got in trouble. And one of the main reasons why they got in trouble in the Old Testament was because they were neglecting the poor. They were stealing from the poor, taking advantage of the poor. They were allowing immigrants to be abused, things like that. So that was over and over and over in those old texts. That's the complaint that is offered by those prophets. So yeah, thank you for articulating that. Absolutely. Is there anybody else? Yeah, over here and then there. So.
First off, thank you again for hosting me once again. And hats off to you. I drove by the church on the way somewhere else today, and it was packed in the parking lot. And how many families did you say you served today?
Well, our food pantry was open today, and we served 240 families today. Wow. They got,
across it, and I personally can speak just in my neighborhood. We've had some camps, we've had some incidents, and we're learning on the process. Who do we call? How do we help? It's not where, and I've been told by people that are in the helping out with unhoused, is you don't just drop and give them food. They need a springboard, and I think think together there's some really good opportunities, and I've had a great opportunity over the years working with Diana and Z, is if you have a group that you can just do a food drive, a clothing drive, or sign up for a day to serve and bring food, there's opportunities. So like, if you don't feel comfortable volunteering in one of the categories, I think you have, what, 3 categories to sign up for? I have a lot of years of background in nonprofit, and they get stretched so much, they don't have the time, sometimes the energy. And so if you know somebody who can help springboard, or if you got some expertise you can help with an idea, all of us are always learning, and what to do and how to do it and who to call. And I'll say the same story I said before. When we first had a camp that was kind of a major activity in our neighborhood, we did a 311. They told us to call the police up. So you call them, they say, no, you need the property owner. So I worked with our commissioner, and it was just a vicious circle, but we didn't know the steps. So there's steps that we can be told on how to do it, and the different things, I think is a help as well. But you guys all do great work, and I know we're here to help. Thank you.
Absolutely, yeah, there's a lot of people out working on the front lines, absolutely. Yeah, we had a statement here.
I'm going to go over here, I'm very soft-spoken.
Okay.
I'm going to get the maximum.
Sure.
And we'll talk about historical perspective. My husband and I think Diane Rambo, we used to be members of Spirit of Joy, and we helped get Samaritan Resources located where it is. And we had a social justice team, worked with Linda Stewart, who was then the district county commissioner. I don't think she was with her experience of being a county commissioner. She showed us how to lobby our commissioners, and we went there at the school, the OCPS was there, I'm sure that possibly the Christian Service Center folks were there, our pastor spoke, and we had some people from our community, we had our blue shirts on, and so we advocated for that because they had $900,000 they weren't spending. And then they had their turf war about where it was going to be, because we created some positive energy and movement. ABC, the Channel 9, interviewed none of my backyard people. And I saw that, and I got very angry because we were inside. Nobody interviewed any one of us. And so I dropped off a letter because their little email didn't have enough characters for me to write what I needed to say. And they actually considered it as a news story. And some folks from Spirit of Joy arranged it, and folks from Spirit of Joy were interviewed. There was a teacher from one of the elementary schools and different other people. The elementary teacher said exactly what's been said. Their families, they are in your backyard, they are in that. So whether if you don't want them in your backyard, then make a backyard that they can be in. And it was effective. The money was spent, and we had a multitude of services. That's a drop-in center. And we're another church that we are belonging to, which was Matthew's Hope. So, and theirs is more expensive in terms of helping people with housing as well, and drop-in services. Basically, the point of what I'm saying is that whether it's churches, civic organizations, neighborhood organizations, you get yourselves as a socially active, you get like-minded people together and decide what you're going to do in a politically active kind of way. It also needs publicity. We need to get the word out and humanize the face of homelessness. We need to get the stories of the mother. The gentleman was talking about. What? Work, okay. Okay, so we need to get the faces out, and we need to make it PR blitz. And I'm sure that there are resources within this community that you know, but and people that you know in your, I don't know how many of you are church affiliated, but we're all affiliated in some way with different organizations. It doesn't matter what the organization is, but you get the school of fish together, and the school of fish can fight for different fish and create movement and action.
Absolutely.
So that is, you know, I don't have an instant solution because you can't automatically find stuff. But what? There are ways that we can approach it. I don't have ideas right now. But my idea is that we have to get our collective units, our circle of people, it's organized. And even if we don't have my leadership trainings, like organized in social justice is organized people and organized money, make power. We don't have the money necessarily, but if you organize people, you get movement.
Right.
So get your grouping organized, and we can make some flow happen.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and I tell you, and yeah, and to expand on that history a little more, it was 4 churches that formed a group called Converge. Yeah, Woodbury Presbyterian was one, Lifesong United Methodist was one, and I can't think of the other. The Presbyterian on Rouse was one as well. So those 4 churches built a group that worked together that caused enough stir that the Samaritan Resource Center was born. So yeah. Yeah.
The power sources, and the power sources are from the bottom up.
That's right.
The bottom up has a lot more power than we can do.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. There was a hand over here, I think, and then back over there. So.
Hey everybody, I'm here at Tana, and I'm clerk of the Orlando Future Meeting. And some of you may be aware that the city of Orlando is looking at possibility of opening an open access shelter at the former work release center on 80th Street. So there's some opposition building towards this, so we really need to show up and make public comments in support of this. It could be a game changer for the area. Would be a 24/7 shelter. There's information on the Orlando.gov website, so you can learn about it, and you can also make a public comment. So if you just Google Orlando.gov, open access shelter, you'll come to a web page on exploring solutions to the critical need for an open access shelter. Press the sign up for updates button, and you'll be able to put your information in and make a comment, and they are actively tracking daily how many pro, how many against. So it's an opportunity to do just what you were saying.
Funny enough, I Googled the work release center because I pass by there often and know it's empty. And I'm thinking, why not?
Yeah.
And that's Haley, and what's the nearest cross street there, just so for the general area?
It's right across from the board of county election.
Okay, Kaylee, you said. Okay. All right, very good. Anyway, there was a hand back in the back here. Yeah.
So my name is Nikki, and I am new to this meeting. I'm glad you're having it. I am involved with Summit Church. I have a ministry to individuals who are experiencing homelessness and poverty. I started this ministry, I guess, around 2017. I had a huge backstory that kind of got me involved with it. But I wanted to put out an announcement based on what you were saying. March the 25th, mark your calendars, March the 25th, Summit Church, the Herndon campus, is hosting an event. It's going to be part of their speaker series. And I've asked them to have speakers to come in and talk about homelessness. We're going to have Eric Gray. We're asking Soul Outreach to be a part of it. We're asking people in the community that would love for Samaritan Resource to be a part of it. And the reason is because I've had so many people to ask me and my little ministry, what can they do? They're in churches, they're in communities. They know homelessness is happening right in front of them. And most of them don't know what to do. So I'm part of, I guess, Homeless Services Network, Lived Experience Council. And I'm always telling people what I experienced, how it helped me, what help would have been possible for me when I was living on the street, when I was living in storage units, when I had no family and no help, except for me and my wits about me. And in 2005, I was in 3 auto accidents, diagnosed with a traumatic brain injury. So I didn't have a whole lot of wits to work with. But there are people who aren't looking at homelessness as individuals. They're looking at it as a statement against their property value, a statement against their community, and sometimes a statement against them. So the basic thing we want to do on the 25th of March at Summit Church, the Herndon campus, is have conversations with individuals who are open to hearing and knowing more about homelessness. So please come.
Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Dee Perry and I am the Senior Aide for Commissioner Kelly Semrad. I just want to thank everyone for being here, and if you received our newsletter, that's awesome, it's brand new. And so I'm just so grateful to Samaritan Resource Center, SAL, Home Service Network, Christian Service Center, for being incredible partners. I was actually homeless multiple times. My parents were addicts, and I've through the years seen, being out in the community and volunteering, seeing in this community how people can come in and out of homelessness directly. So I know how important this is. Commissioner Kelly Semrad is at another community meeting, so she couldn't unfortunately be here. But I ran her campaign. I'm very close with her. I call her mom at this point. So I feel very confident to speak to some of the things that she ran on and advocates for. She's brand new, and so we don't even have office furniture yet. So please bear with us as we're trying to build our team and hire some awesome individuals. But one thing I know that she's really adamant on fighting for is diversifying the tourism development tax and holding the tourism industry accountable to paying their fair share and not hoarding our public dollars to subsidize their industry that's already exorbitantly profitable. She is a PhD professor and internationally awarded expert in tourism economies. And in that work, she has worked directly with various countries around the world to use tourism as a conduit to improve the quality of life of the residents of that said destination and use those funding opportunities to alleviate poverty, while it's still being profitable for said tourism industries, whether it's hotels or theme parks or what have you. And in that work, she has flown all over the world and seen where it works. And we're failing here in Orange County. The tourism destination of the United States has an F rating by one of the most internationally awarded tourism economists. And so we have to, have someone in office pointing at that, at the data, the proven track record, and saying, here's how we're failing. And I don't think she'll be upset to share this, but the I-Drive Chamber of Commerce met with her this week, and she came with her white papers and with her proposals and said, let's talk about a bed tax. Let's talk about diversifying the TDT. Let's talk about diversifying the Visit Orlando funding. And they said no to every single offer that she brought. Because where are they going to get their bonuses, right? They're being subsidized by our money. They think they call the tourism development tax their money to her face. And it's not, it's all of our money. It should be improving our quality of life. It should be, giving us affordable transportation. It should be giving us affordable housing, workforce housing, attainable housing. It should be improving our roads where we have a $22 billion deficit. There are opportunities that are right at our fingertips, and all we need are the resources. And meanwhile, the lowest wages in the nation are being, concentrated right here because the tourism industry purposely and intentionally keeps it low. And that's robbing all of us. So, Commissioner is already hitting the ground running, fighting for those things. Some other priorities of her office is to ask very important questions at every single point of the development review process for new developments coming in. Because we have been heavily subsidizing because of the state law where we can't increase impact fees. Developers are not paying their fair share for the cost. And just this month, we had briefings on our reclaimed water rates are going down. Tourists use our water. We have 75 million tourists that come here. Why are we always pointing at ways to increase rates on our existing residents who keep bearing the brunt? OUC is trying to raise rates for their energy right now. That's a public utility. We are seeing rates go up for all these different utilities and amenities just to survive, and people are being squeezed by property insurance. At a certain point, it's going to buckle, and we are all, like Lisa said, just one paycheck, one natural disaster, one flood, one company going under and being laid off away from being homeless ourselves. So Commissioner Sunrise wants to thank everyone for being here and let you know that she is a champion and a voice for this very, very big concern. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Any other thoughts, any other comments? Yeah, over here.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for hosting the town hall here, and thanks for everyone.
Sure.
My name is Eric Brimmer. I lead an organization that's called Orlando Unity, which stands for Yes in My Backyard. We are a pro-housing advocacy organization. And I was sitting here tonight thinking about things that we can do as a community to address this problem. I think the first thing I would say is to thank all the individuals in our faith-based organizations, our nonprofit providers, our county staff, who work tirelessly 7 days a week to try to provide services for our homeless population. So I want to sit here and say thank you to all of you for all the amazing work that you do. I just want to know that I appreciate it, and I think we all in this room appreciate it as well. So I want to say thank you.
Sure.
Two is a lot of things we talk about tonight, a lot of decisions that are made about what gets done. If there's a shelter going to be built, where does that get built? Those are decisions that are made by our local elected officials. So in regards to that local funding, that we have additional funding this year, which is awesome to hear, that we have $10 million more to be put in. Let your local elected officials know that you support that, and you would like to see even more of that. Because those are the ones who are going to make those decisions. So let them know that you support and continued investment into ending homelessness here in Orange County. And then if we are lucky enough to identify a shelter location here in East Orange County, which I hope we are sorely all over the county, I think we all need to do our part as a community and as a county to solve this issue. Kind of what was mentioned earlier about the location possibly of the open access shelter in Orlando. That opposition is already mounting against it, and it's really just in those early stages. And people will come out against that. And if a shelter is proposed here on this side of town, people will come out against it. So our elected officials who will make a decision as to whether we build that shelter or not need to know there are people in this community that support that shelter. So it's coming together. I think it was mentioned wanting to come together and work together to show that support, letting them know whether that's through email campaigns or even most importantly, if you have the ability, when they vote on something like that, the Board of County Commissioner meeting, it's coming to that room and giving us support of public comment, because I guarantee you, the people who will be against it will be in that room and speaking into the faces of our elected officials, telling them no. And we need to be there to say, yes, in my backyard, we want to end homelessness. So I'm so glad this is happening. I'm glad to be a part of it. I look forward to continue to support your work in the future.
Certainly. Thank you. Yeah. Any other comments? Yeah, we got a hand back here. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Jacqueline, and I support a few nonprofit organizations that work with the unhoused in the city of Orlando to provide direct services. And I wanted to address the who spoke on Florida House Bill 1365, and anyone else in the room who knows about this particular law, which is the anti-camping, public camping, and anti-sleeping law. From what my understanding is that the Supreme Court rulings have shown that they are that a city cannot criminalize those who house themselves or public camping, if they do not have enough shelter beds in the shelter, which the city of Orlando and the county of Orlando falls very short of. On top of that, if they do want to enact an anti-public camping or sleeping law, they have to provide a designated area where the unhoused can camp and sleep, which I understand, is my understanding, and if anyone knows anything different, please let me know, that they have not established that as well. Making it then illegal to enforce and criminalize the unhoused and jail them and fine them an amount that if they have $500, they'd be sleeping in a hotel or somewhere else, which sometimes they can't even buy a cup of coffee or a meal. And if now in January they have opened up where people can then sue, or an organization can sue if 4 people sleeping unhoused, the city and the county has opened themselves up to lawsuits to then be sued for enacting something that is illegal because they do not have enough shelter beds or designated areas for public sleeping and being encamped. So what?
That's where organizing boots on the ground can possibly turn the tide.
Yeah, definitely. I just wanted to, I see your hand, but I just wanted to say something really quickly too. Yes, we will engage the community way in advance. That is one of the things that we have already discussed, because I would hate for people to just be surprised. Hey, this is what we're going to do, right? We want to have that discussion.
And Senator, it was you that mentioned in Adams County, the ones that are working. Now, if you have videos of what's working, you know, these are the things that we show the community that are against. This is what it would look like, and so.
Absolutely. I know the gentleman had her with the head.
I was just going to speak as me. First of all, Lisa, is it?
Yes.
Thank you very much for a very realistic thing. My name is David Siegel. I'm one of the outside people looking in. And I'm learning about this, and I think I went to an earlier meeting to learn about this. I think that sometimes when this is presented, you create some additional problems. I really enjoyed the gentleman talking about the people coming in from other countries. What you don't realize is you just told everyone in the community, this will never end. And if you give that kind of a thing to people, they'll fight you. The second thing I really just appreciate is a less than accurate sales pitch on the tourist destination tax. It was created by the legislature, and you won't get anything out of it unless you convince the legislature. And so you've got to, through understanding, not threats of, well, you're going to pay for it anyway. I used to scream at people at the legislature, we need this or we need that, and they're like, And one party has 75% of the House and Senate. So you either convince them that you have a real solution, but just stop this. They're not going to care who has what awards from. We as people, and it's terrible, we look at other countries and we do not say, oh wow, you gave somebody an award. You have to create understanding, and you have to, and I'm learning, discover all these vehicles and what is progressing to a solution versus what is just going to resonate as, oh God, we'll never do this. And the tourists, you know, you might say, hey, if we create shelters way on this side of town, because like Disney never wanted stuff done on the east side, right, for tourism. Maybe they'll say the unwashed won't be in your neighborhood, and who knows, that might be able to sell. But go read the statute on the TDT. It says what you can do and what you can't. And in case you don't realize, the legislature struck down the cities and the counties a few years ago and said you have no sovereign immunity, which makes you very vulnerable, whether it's fair or not. I didn't understand it other than to maybe smack you down. And I have seen people, and I have reviewed things, even last fall, shows Florida, red map, little blue dot in Orange County, and a little blue dot in West Palm Beach. So you see the strategy. Even Democrat representatives in the House can't get anything to the floor, period. They let Stewart pass something that was absolutely innocuous for 8 years. Oh, you've got to give them the covenants. That's been in our law in Orange County for 30 years. That's the way it works. So I think we have to look at experiments that really work, because this is an unpleasant matter for people, whether they like it or not. And we have to create understanding. And I don't necessarily, it's not an issue a lot of people want to look at. They don't want to see it. And that's a terrible thing on all of us. But it is true, and I'm not frustrated, but I'm trying to say there are things we cannot touch. In fact, those things sit very fragilely on one foundation. That one neat tax is a taxation without representation. So the people you're taxing, who speaks for them? So the point is, I completely agree with the Chamber, the statement about the Chamber of Commerce. They're all in there together. They do believe they call it the bed tax, but I am telling you that legislators tried to touch this. I think even Republican ones, and they were struck down. The rest of the legislature was like, do not touch this. And in fact, the most intelligent thing I ever heard over 2024 was Commissioner Scott. And he just kind of said there are certain things that put us in peril as a county. The reason you're able to get 10 million for this or that is because that TDT is offsetting other things that fall within its purview. So you get to divert money, but you can really go too far, and that is my worry. I'm not telling you get out of my way, I don't agree with you. I'm telling you that sometimes, you know, that action and opposite equal and reaction, that removing of the county and city sovereign immunity violates 200 years of freaking history in government. And that's the legislature telling the city something. And I don't like it, but it is something I would be worried about. This is too fragile of an issue. We have to be so very careful. And again, we've got to communicate what's working. And again, Lisa, you're very practical. These different courts at different levels can come in and say things. But that big Supreme Court is going to look at what is the law in that jurisdiction. And they're conservative. So
absolutely.
No,
and I'm grateful you're bringing up some of what you're bringing up, and you're saying it's a fragile issue, and the heartbreaking thing in that is that if something breaks, it's our most vulnerable people that will suffer.
Well, your point is very good that there has to be comprehensive, and people have to be united.
That's right.
That the solution has to be. That's right. When you've got 10 different things, you frustrate people into, not moving forward. But anyway. Thank you.
You got it. Thank you. And there was a comment down here. Did you still want to say something? Yeah.
So my name is Angela. I am new to this event tonight. And I just want to say I was addicted to drugs for 28 years, and I was a part of the population that you guys are talking about right now. I unfortunately now clean 11 years, and I do have a transition. So I do have a faith-based transition home off the street where I house young ladies that are coming out of incarceration. I've also housed some ladies that are coming out of foster care and homelessness. And it is a faith-based. I'm a partnership with First Baptist Church of Orlando. So I do help out these women. One of the biggest issues that we do have is the mental health. You know, like me, I was affected from 4 years old till I was 17 with so many different traumas, and it kept me bound to addiction. And addiction is our safe place because it takes away the pain, but unfortunately it doesn't take away the trauma. So a lot of these ladies, a lot of these homeless populations, that's what they're dealing with. And there's a lot of homes just like myself that house these women and men. Unfortunately, we just don't have enough space, enough funding to pay for their beds. I have a group of ladies right now that's ready to take on a village. We just don't have the funding to pay for the beds. So we're just asking, you know, where can we get funding to house these women? Where can we get funding, you know, to help with their mental trauma? Because not only these big facilities and these homeless shelters, we need other villages. We need different villages to help this population. So if you have any ideas, let me know, because I'm ready to take on this homeless population and with these women that are needing our assistance. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the message. Absolutely. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and start to wrap this up. Did we have one more quick comment? Yeah, another quick one. Yeah.
I just want to introduce myself real quick. Tim McKinney, CEO of United Global Outreach. Just to make you guys aware that in Far East Orange County, we work in the community of Bithlo, but we've opened recently a medical assisted treatment center to address substance use disorder and behavioral health issues. We've been blessed to have Orange County support partnerships with an organization called SALT, so we have full-time shower trailers now, social workers, licensed mental health counselors, clothing, laundry, community coffee shop and library, which is a heating and cooling center open 7 days a week. So there are support services available in Far East Orange County and then with Samaritan Resource to the west. What we don't have, as has been mentioned here, is we need low barrier shelter space. So we are going to need community support. We are going to identify some really great locations. But two things need to happen before we bring you a location, at least from my perspective, that are important to me and my organization, is we need to make sure what's happening outside the gate of that shelter is excellent. Because that's really a problem for the reason why, and one of the main reasons people don't want shelters in their backyard is not what's happening in the shelter necessarily, but what's happening outside on the streets. So we're going to make sure whatever we do in East Orange County that I support is going to be excellent outside those gates. And then secondly, we're going to make sure what's happening inside those gates is treating our unhoused friends like we would want to be treated ourselves. VIP. When you're at your weakest point in your life, you shouldn't be treated like you're being booked at 33rd Street. And so we're going to look for partners to staff that shelter that are going to treat people like VIPs, and they're going to make sure that they're getting the care that you or I would want for ourselves in facilities that you or I would want to be in ourselves, okay? So that's my commitment as an advocate that's been working a long time out in East Orange County and understand those issues. And then the other thing that we have to have is we have to have quality affordable housing. What does that mean? We've got to come up with some innovative housing solutions that we can rapidly produce. So I'll give a shameless plug. I designed a model small house. You can come and take a tour. It's at Transformation Village right now. I invite all of you to come out there because we're going to mass produce these small homes with support from philanthropy. Advent Health actually is a recent partner that's joined our efforts for the small house production. Orange County government, hopefully, and other private partners to get together, and we're going to mass produce homes that are as excellent as you or I would want to live in, that are smaller in scale than a traditional home, and we're going to build small houses and small house villages all throughout Orange County. And we're going to help tackle the 100,000 units we are short today in low-income housing. So we cannot build housing the way we've already built it, and we can't go through a development process the way we've been doing it to meet the needs of this demand, okay? So you can come to Transformation Village. get with me afterwards. I'm happy to set up a tour, because you can walk through a home today and see what we're talking about mass producing. And then we're going to intentionally work to educate and hire a population that otherwise has trouble getting employment, even from caring employers, because of criminal history related to issues of addiction and other challenges with poverty. And then the last thing I want to say is, there are currently unhoused people in this room. The stereotype of what you think of a homeless person to be, it's not always what a homeless person is. So my longtime friend back there, I'm glad she told her story. I'm anxious to meet you, and you told your story. But those are stories of people that were homeless. In this room right now are people that are homeless. And they don't live very far from here in a tent in the woods. And you probably would never imagine who they are. So these are our sons, daughters, sisters, and brothers that we need to really figure out how can we take care of it. And even if we don't care about them emotionally or from a sense of conscience, them staying unhoused is costing all of us a whole lot of money, because every time they go to the emergency room, every time they access the service, all of us collectively are paying that bill. I'm also on the board of the Central Florida Commission on Homelessness, and when we first went to the Housing First model, we did a study, and every chronically homeless person was costing at that time $35,000 a year just to be maintained, to still be unhoused. Now, fast forward 10 or 15 years later, that number is dramatically increased, okay? So this is an issue that we all have to get behind. We've got to leverage our collective relationships, because we must solve this problem, because it's the right thing to do. Thank you.
And let me go ahead and wrap this up. We've been going for an hour and 45 minutes. So let me wrap us up with a couple of quick thoughts and an opportunity to do something as a result of this meeting. Z and I have been working to put together some groups of people that will do something, like I said, and some things that will produce some results around us. There's 3 things that I would invite you to put your name on and give us some contact information. There's a few sheets of paper over here, one with each of these titles on it, and you can write your name down and contact info, and then we're going to be starting to build a group around some of these ideas. And the first one is this, and that's an outreach team. That's not doing homeless outreach, like engaging with homeless people, but outreach in terms of spreading the word about what's going on. In terms of like, these are developments that are happening. Hey, let's build a big group of people to be at this meeting, doing all of these kinds of things. So that's a way that you could get engaged. The second one is a housing solutions task force. And that would be a group of people that are out talking to folks, saying, hey, do you happen to have a bedroom that you might be willing to rent to somebody that is in need of a room or an apartment on the back of your house? And start and letting that group work with the Samaritan Resource Center and you know, and other places to physically get people into those places. So that's one. And then doing the work doesn't have to be limited to that. Certainly it can grow beyond that, but this is just an idea there. And then the third one is a job readiness and employment committee. Now that's going to be a group of people that will talk with local businesses and get out and do the footwork of talking with folks, saying, hey, would you be willing to hire somebody that is working with the Samaritan Resource Center that is working to get out of homelessness? To be able to help folks take that step, that next step back into housing. So those are three ways and very simple explanations. As these groups form, it can certainly build into more complex thoughts and more complex ideas and work that we're doing. But like I said, this is just a brief opportunity to get connected with one of these ideas. So as you leave tonight, please make sure there's a couple of these sheets, and we can put them in a couple of different places. Put your name on one of those, give us your email address, get connected with the WhatsApp community group. That's going to be a big way to find out what's going on. And then our next meeting is going to be here. It's going to be on February 20th. So please plan on coming and being a part of that as well. We had one. Mary has a thought, and then we're going to close it out.
Wonderful programs.
but how do we get it all together? You know, like with the county commissioner, that, you know, not just the 50 people here, but, you know, all through the neighborhoods, all on the east side, to make a movement. You know, great ideas, great knowledge, but, and with your special housing, how do we get all that together? Somehow we need to, which I'm not computer savvy, but hook all these thoughts together with the programs so that we can move in force and numbers. And, you know, with your information, you get the knowledge and get something done.
Yeah, and Mary, that's what this meeting is all about, right? That's what we're doing. This is only the third, right? Yeah.
We're gonna work out something tangible.
Absolutely.
That hooks all this together.
That's exactly right,
I don't know
yeah.
exactly what it is, but that would be, to me, the first move to.
That's right. This is the start of it. So yeah, get engaged, volunteer someplace if you're not volunteering. Get engaged, you know, get this, you know, help this work get started around you. So, but please connect with these sheets. And if you want to be a part of actually doing that kind of work, let us know. And we want to see it happen. So again, thank you all very, very much for being here. Thank you for caring about our homeless neighbors that, you know, that are living all around us and that face difficult times almost every day. So, so thank you again. Drive safe as you're headed home. Thank you for being here.